Good evening, sir. This is Officer Barkley with McLean County Sheriff's Department. Do you know why I pulled you over this evening?
I got no idea, officer.
Okay.
I don't know anything. What?
Okay, well, the reason I pulled you over is because you were swerving back there, and you crossed the double yellow line there on the curb, which is really dangerous. You been drinking this evening?
Just a sip. I mean, that's all. It's just a sip.
Just a sip, huh?
That's
Okay,
Just
all right.
one I got.
All right, I'm going to have you blow into this breathalyzer. Blow really hard. Give it all you got. Oh my God!
What did I pass?
You shouldn't even be alive. You blew a 666.
Wow, is that a pass? Did I win?
Mother, man.
Welcome back. I got another episode of 666 Seconds of Murder for you, but I think this one's going to go over slightly, so it's going to be free. It's going to be free for you. So hang in there for a true crime white knuckle trip with me today. And today I'm wearing a Morris Sound Studios t-shirt, which was an iconic Florida studio where some of the best 90s death metal was recorded. And this shirt was in recognition of all they had done for the genre. So now I'm sure some of you following the case of the Idaho 4 have wondered about what kind of person or persons could carry out such gruesome crimes, such as a quadruple homicide with a bladed weapon. Now, I'm not a PhD or an educated person past high school. But what I have is life experience, common sense, and what I'd like to call a Pete HD. All right. Now, I've been following true crime since the summer of Sam in the 1970s, New York City. It was a tough place in a disturbing time, and I was about 10 years old. Was fascinated, though, with the case, and my uncle was driving a cab in New York City at the time, and we were all on edge. My dad became a parole officer in New York and worked at a few penitentiaries during his training and during his time working in that job. And he had been to places like Attica, as well as Sing Sing, Auburn, and some of the notorious places. Now, my mother waited until we were a little older to watch ourselves after school, and she was hired as a secretary for a big divorce attorney in the area who was representing Hella Crafts from Newtown, Connecticut. That name may ring a bell to some of you, but Hella was the victim who ended up being fed through a wood chipper by her husband, which was the inspiration of the movie Fargo, according to the filmmakers. So dinner conversations were more than interesting, and I was like a sponge, and I became an adult, continued into the true crime stuff, reading all the books I could find. And when I was in low 12, I wrote songs about the subject. As an author, I feed on real life, like many other authors do as well. I started the Murder Metal Mayhem podcast in the April of 2017 with Chris Shawback, and we added two other co-hosts, Chris C.K. Kovac and Joey Cashman. CK passed away in 2021, and we forged on. The last count was 267 episodes and another 100 bonus episodes. So I've also extensively read and interviewed people like Dr. Catherine Ramsland, Dr. Peter Vronsky, and Dr. Harold Schechter. And these are people at the top of their respective games. So it's with that background that I present some ideas on the question I posed in my thumbnail. What details in the Idaho 4 tell us about, those people that did the crimes themselves? What details do we even know? And the common sense approach to this, just real basic. Now, the problem with the case is that it's beyond backwards. I mean, it's so absurdly out of whack that there just has to be something big going on with the people involved that will probably blow our minds if we ever find out. But I don't see how there won't be some crazy twist during the trial, or even potentially, see the feds come in at the last minute and take the case over. And if that were to happen, we wouldn't see or hear anything of the trial. I just wonder if it's because so many eyes are on them in this case that they're being a bit more cloak and dagger to get them things done. But I don't know. But the feds can shut it down with one phone call, one email, one text message. I hope that, that doesn't happen. But there are some things that we do know, and several more we can use some common sense to assume what we've been told is real, or some true crime writer's wild imagination. So could be either or, right? Now, we know the crimes happened on Sunday, November 13th, 2022. We can go back and forth on the time of the crimes, but it happened on that day, early that day. But I believe it started maybe around 2 a.m., maybe slightly after. I've had many people bring up numerology in this case. It pops up routinely with the sordid group of serial killers from the US alone. I mean, we've heard these serial killers having these types of, odd mannerisms and signatures. The 60s spawned the Manson family and the Zodiac killer. And I honestly, don't know much about numerology, but, the address of the home is 1122 King Road, coupled with the 11 and the 13 in the dates have given people some concern. I can see where it would be a possibility, but again, I just don't know anything about numerology, but it's certainly in play. And just like with the recent case of the two young teen girls in Delphi, Indiana, cults were brought up due to the ritualistic nature of the scene. The girls were posed and sticks were placed on the bodies that experts believed were runes associated with the Odinist group. We've seen this ritualistic scenes, in the Sharon Tate murders, from the Manson family. But these were sloppy, the misspellings, and done by just basically drugged out teenagers who just followed Charlie's word. Nothing nearly as skilled as some of those ciphers from the Zodiac. Now, crime scenes are investigated to determine important information, such as signatures from the attacker. But in this case, we don't know much. One moment, we're told it was a messy, horrible scene, and in another, 4 relatively calm college students calling 911 like they were putting on a show to set their story up. The entire timeline in this case is based on it. How crazy is that? So the prosecution wants to push the lone attacker as Bryan Kohberger, and that's their thing, and it's been that way since almost the very beginning. Is there any blockbuster surprise waiting for us here? I mean, I find it hard to believe, since something compelling, to put Kohberger in that house during the 10 minutes, hasn't really come up. And it's got to be during the 10 minutes that the prosecution says he was there, or their whole story falls apart. So what, 4:05 to 4:20, if you take about a minute or two walking to and from the car, you're talking about 10 minutes, maybe 12. The weapon or weapons used in a crime like this would speak volumes to investigators. The prosecution is all in on their theory of the K-bar knife, the one that never was found, and the sheath provides a single speck, no exaggeration, of transfer DNA that points to Bryan Kohberger. I've done plenty of videos on the DNA side of this. Check out my True Crime Deep Cuts episode. I'll put that in the episode description so you can see it. I talked to a police officer about DNA and crime scene investigation. But these wounds sound much more extreme. From what's been leaked prior to and after the gag order was put in place, things like machetes, axes, and even fists, those are tools of rage. Someone with an extreme grudge against someone, not four victims, one person, maybe two, but all four doesn't add up. The other option would be a hit on the house for issues surrounding large sums of money and maybe illegal party favors. And to make it very clear, what happens to you when you do something stupid, like flush something or get rid of something, things are going to happen. Maybe they're going to get you girls for that kind of thing that's going to happen. Now, the story as we know it makes it out to be an organized attacker, which points to Kohberger with his background, especially the stuff about his last year at DeSales and one of his professors, Dr. Catherine Ramsland. Now, Dr. Ramsland wrote Confessions of a Serial Killer based on her many years of talking to Dennis Rader, the BTK. But, he was very organized, very planned out. So I'm sure this would have come up in class, since the book would have come out around the time that Brian Kohberger was there at DeSales. And I interviewed her around this time, and we spent a lot of time talking about the book and about her relationship to this day with Dennis Rader. She said he calls her on her birthday. How creepy is that BTK calls her every year on his birthday? But he does. Now, to consider, she was Kohberger's professor at the same time is definitely a bit of a mind blower to me. At the beginning of this video, I mentioned that I expect some sort of game-changing news that will reveal a parallel investigation of sorts. It's really the one thing that could attempt to explain how strange this case is, and that nothing makes any sense. But I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about this one. So put a comment below. Let us know what your thoughts are. It helps the channel and the video grow. So it's a good way to help for free. Do you like reading dark and creepy stuff? Check out my website. That's PeteAltieri.com. And I got free samples on there, a bookstore, got all sorts of things you could check out on there. Big thanks to all the members in the Horns High Club. Your support is fantastic. I appreciate it. But I appreciate all of you guys that watch these videos along with us. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe before you go. And I'll see you next time.